Good afternoon, and today's talk is all about Harold Pinter and the particular term Pinteresque. Now, whenever we think of Pinteresque and Harold Pinter, so immediately what comes up in our mind that so many other terms also connected to their writers like Shavian, directly connected to George Bernard Shaw, Dantesque, connected to the famous Dante. We have also Kafkaesque, Blackian, so are the terms. Now, thinking of Harold Pinter and that very early plays that he wrote and which were actually staged and what happened over there, the responses were terrible, except a few critics. In most cases, it was declared that in case of Pinter, the career is really terrible and he was basically an eccentric kind of a person, untalented, and it is impossible for him to be an upcoming author, writer, playwright in this platform. Now, Pinterest gradually gained a different kind of nomenclature, a particular term, very popular now. And if we think of Oxford Dictionary, they are basically defining the term Pinteresque. I quote dictionary here, of or relating to the British playwright Harold Pinter or his works. Now, Pinteresque is something that talks a lot about colloquial language, apparent triviality, and whenever we talk of Pinteresque features, we find some of the long pauses and also big silences. So, how was this Pinteresque features described? Those features were described that can be found in that famous Swedish Academy report. So, how did they look at? Now, if we think of that Swedish Academy, how did they define those important features that we call today Pinteresque? Those are something like this: an enclosed space, an unpredictable dialogue. That is very common in the plays of Harold Pinter, where people are at the mercy of each other and pretense crumbles. And what we find in Pinteresque features that number of characters are very few and the plot is also very minimum kind of plot, and there is some interlocutions and absurdity, everything. Later in an interview when Harold Pinter was asked what exactly his opinion that some of the features in his plays which are now categorized as Pinteresque. So, what is his own opinion to this? Pinter had that very famous statement that he doesn't know. He doesn't care even that some people have started categorizing his plays as Pinteresque. He famously declared, "What I write is what I write." So, Pinteresque means a lot of things in mind. Pinteresque means comedy of menace, the threat, the kind of trauma, hidden trauma, a kind of a feature that for which the characters are terrible, characters are very in difficulties, and they have certain, they are placed in certain ambiguities. This is all about that you find in Pinteresque. Pinteresque means that famous silences, and that is often problematic for the directors to perform them on the stage. Now, that famous silences that you find in Pinter, and when in a lecture Harold Pinter himself was explaining that reference of the silences in his plays, it was in 1962. And Pinter was there to say, there are two silences. One when no word is spoken, and the other when perhaps a torrent of language is being employed. So, when some character speaks too many things at a time, so suddenly a certain situation happens when he doesn't find to say what to say next, and there is a blockage and a silence is evident. So this is all about the silences that is very common, that is very popular, and two different kind of silences as that Pinter himself said about in his plays. And the best ever explanation that why the silences in his plays, that Pinter later also explained that whenever there is the option of communication, and this is the verbal communication, there is the problem. And I would like to quote here Harold Pinter. Pinter famously said, "I think that we communicate only too well in our silence, in what is unsaid, and that what takes place in a continual evasion, desperate, re-argued attempts to keep ourselves to ourselves." So this is all about, when we are in silence, then we communicate at the best ever possible way. So Pinteresque means all those things. Pinteresque means repetitions. We find the characters are repeating the same kind of speeches all the time. They are saying the same thing repeatedly, meaninglessly. When there is no necessity of the repetition, no necessity of a particular dialogue in a particular condition, they continue repeating the same thing. Pinteresque means the use of irony. Pinteresque means the kind of a vagueness that the characters are there, and that vagueness from where the characters are, they get entangled more and more, and there is no immediate relief. Pinteresque means a kind of a ambiguity, a suspense, a threat, and an unexpected situation from where there is no way out. Thank you so much.